I'm the Cadetes José Rodríguez, and this time I will talk about port control. First, I will define some key points, starting with the port, which is a coastal area used for economic activities between maritime and land traffic. And its characteristics, we found its infrastructure. It has breakwaters, docks, and storage areas. The intermodality, because it connects sea transport with land transport. The services it provides to the vessel, like pilotage, bunkering, and waste collection, and to the cargo, like stowage. There are different types of ports. We have commercial, industrial, like refineries, military, like naval bases, fishing and tourist ports, like sport marinas and cruise terminals. Next, we have shipping agency. They are the legal representative or acting for the ship owner or charterer on land. Their functions are legal representation, because they sign documents and make payments for the ship. Logistics, because they coordinate operational services. Crew assistance, because they handle medical attention and reputation whenever it's necessary. The management of documentation, because they manage arrival and departure papers with authorities like the harbor master. Moving on to inspection companies, these are independent entities hired to verify the technical and legal conditions of the ship. Into their characteristics, they have certified staff, they have to be impartial, and they can issue internationally valid papers. Under types, we have cargo inspectors, who is the one that check the quantity and the quality of the cargo. Classification societies, they verify structural and safety standards. P&I, protection and indemnity, they investigate accidents and insurance claims. And finally, on and off hire survey, they inspect the ship's condition at the start or end of a lease. Finally, regarding operations and documentation, we have arrival, that is the physical arrival at the anchorage zone. NOR, notice of readiness, the document where the captain confirms the ship is ready to operate. NORA, that's NOR accepted, the official acceptance by the terminal. This one's when starts the late time. Free pratique, it's the health authorization certifying that the ship has no infections, diseases. Operational window, the time slot assigned for the ship to dock. And berthing maneuver, moving to the ship from anchorage to the dock with pilot and dock's assistance. Key meetings, that's the meeting between officers and stevedores to define the cargo and safety plan. And at least we have clearance and departure. It's the closing of operations, it verifies there are no debts, and the harbor master authorizes the vessel to leave for its next destination.
Hi. Let's talk about the ISPS code, or the International Ships and Port Facilities Security Code. Everything began in 2002 by hand of the IMO, who made the first version of the text in response of the 9/11 that occurred in the United States in 2001. After that, the 1st of July of 2004, the ISPS code came into force, supported by the Chapter 11, Part 2 of the SOLAS Convention. The main idea of the ISPS code is to generate a framework of international cooperation for the governments in order to detect and prevent possible threats for the maritime security on vessels and port facilities. If we talk about the structure of this code, we can find two main parts. Part A, with all the mandatory requirements for the maritime security of vessels and port facilities, and the Part B, with all the recommendations, guidelines, and forms in order to comply completely with everything established in the part A. So from chapter 1 to 3 we have the generalities, the key definitions, and the scope of the convention. From chapter 4 to 6 we find the responsibilities of the state or the government, the declaration of protection, maritime protection, and the obligations for the companies, maritime company. From chapter 7 to 13 we find everything about the protection of the vessel, right? We can find the evaluations of security, we can find the records, also the security level that we must find in the protection plan or security plan of the vessel. We can find the SSO, Ship's Security Officer. We can find also the ship's security plan and the CSO, which stands for Company Security Officer. And also we can find the mandatory drills and exercises for the ship's security plan. From chapter 14 to 18 we can find everything about the port facilities security, right? We can find the evaluation for port facility security, we can find the port the port facility security plans, and also we can find the port facility security officer, right? Also we can find the evaluations and the drills or exercises about this plan of security, this security plan. And lastly, we can find in chapter 19 everything about certification and validations for the vessel. So if we talk about part B, as I told you before, we can find everything about the guidelines, the requirements, and the forms, in a way of speaking, to comply with everything exposed in part A. So we can find about 18 additional chapters, which each one focuses on its homologate in part A. So what else? We can talk about the designated persons or designated officers, which we can find about in chapter 11, 12, and 17 of the ISPS code. First, we have the Ship Security Officer, SSO. It comes in chapter 12 and makes the presence, or it makes valid the presence of the ship security officer, as I told you, who is in charge of implementing the ship's security plan, also responsible for the evaluations and operating the security equipment on the vessel, right? This ship security officer is designated by the captain, the master, and the company itself. Also, we can find the company security officer, who is designated only by the company and who is in charge of the security of all the fleet of this maritime company. Also is responsible for the design of each ship's security plan of each of its vessels. And lastly, we can find the port facility security officer, who is in charge of all the security and security plans for the port facility and who is designated by the administration of the port facility, right? Next, we can find the maritime security level, or MARSEC, which is defined in chapter 2 of the ISPS code, and it divides in 3 levels, principal levels. First, we have the first level of protection or security, where the security measures are like minimum and there's no visible threat. We have the level 2 of security, which we can find a moderate threat. Also, we can find a moderate security measures for a limited period of time. And we can find the third level, which means that there's an imminent and probable threat to the maritime security. And we can find the highest measures of security or protection that we can find in the security plan, which mean that basically nothing comes in or out. And lastly, we can talk about the drills and emergency exercises that we can find, and they gotta be in order to comply with chapter 13 and 18 of the ISPS code. First, we have the drills that are like specific planned exercises that came by regularly, quarterly. Also, we can find the emergency exercises that are practices made by the crew in order to face a time of real threat. So everyone will be prepared and focused on a role that they must comply. And in conclusion, we can say that the ISPS code is one of the most important convention or standard that we can find in the maritime world, for a way of speaking, because it prevents and lets us or help us in preserve our life and allow us to comply with our profession in the most safety and secure way, because basically it protects us from any threat that we can find or we can face on a vessel and on any port facility.